podcast series of Business of Cannabis. Find out all that we do at businessofcannabis.com. Coming up on this BofC Live, we connect with Amar Singh. He is the CEO of Elevated Signals. They are a Canadian-based cannabis technology company that helps enable more streamlined supply chains and compliance. This is Amar Singh, recorded live at the Lift & Co Expo in Toronto in November. Amar, thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
It's nice to have you on this side of the country.
Yeah, it's good to see you in person.
I don't think I've only seen you like this. We're going to put a box around your face and we'll do that.
Yeah, that last panel was fun.
Yeah, it was great. We were just chit-chatting. Talk a little bit about Elevated Signals, the technology, and then we'll talk about sort of how people are utilizing it and why people like it as a technology.
Sounds good.
It's a lot to unpack, but go for it.
Yeah. No, I got lots of thoughts there. So Elevated Signals is supply chain management software, and we're essentially bringing digital transformation to the industry. It's not a challenge in cannabis alone. It's in all manufacturing industries.
No.
Exactly. So it's paper, a lot of paper and spreadsheets. And so like the ultimate problem that needs to be solved is visibility into the supply chain for upper management, and the shop floor staff don't have the ability to get that data to them because they're either using, maybe a software that's not fully appropriate for the use case, or it only captures some of the data. So they may be tracking inventory, but they're not tracking all the inventory in the supply chain. It may just go up to harvest, and then it gets a little dicey in terms of how much data you're able to capture on inventory after that. And then so that data ends up being done in spreadsheets, or literally often on clipboards, and then maybe like you're like harvesting, a whole bunch of buckets of plant material, and you're weighing each one of them, but it's being on a clipboard, and so like all that granular data is not captured either. So it's like this lot of work in progress on inventory has not been captured completely. So with Elevated Signals, we do. So we capture like everything. You don't need a single piece of paper or spreadsheet to capture the data. We make it very easy for the operators to input that. The other thing that's been missing is all the record keeping and that goes into producing a batch of plants has been done on paper. Whether you're a small producer.
So nutrients and like all that.
Exactly. The beauty of us building this in Canada is that the high regulatory bar that Health Canada has set, though it is burdensome on everyone, it's there for a good reason. It's to ensure consistency and repeatability and safety, health and safety ultimately. But what that has done is push the producers here to track all of that information.
Right.
And now that information becomes valuable because it's a record of how everything was done. And if you don't have a record of what was done, like, was it really done or what was done? Right. You don't know, and you don't know how to repeat that process. So as other jurisdictions in the world start legalizing, we can export this model elsewhere. But within Canada, that problem needed to be solved because it was all on paper. So we've completely digitally transformed that part as well, made it really easy to capture your records of how each, like sanitization events, pest control, biocontrol, nutrients, and then even the environmental data. So that sensor data needs to be pulled in.
Temperature, humidity, all that.
Lighting, CO2, these are organisms after all.
Right.
So we kind of use the term like Fitbit for the plants, but it's like beyond that. Like this is the lifeblood of your operation.
Right.
These organisms need to
be healthy. It's the business too. Yeah.
And if you've got data that's siloed, and there are ways of tracking this, you can have sensor data, but if it's siloed or if it's data stranded on paper, if it's not correlated and contextualized with the inventory, the batch inventory, that being the unit of record to which you associate all these other data points, then no one has time to put that story together.
And so it's a bit, it's taking together, I'm going to simplify for like an idiot like me, like the compliance, of course, the replicability, the business operations, and the business intelligence, because I need to know as the CFO, all of these things. So and from operations, I need to know when they're going to be done, when they're going to hit the market. And then like an ag perspective, I want to be able to do it again.
Exactly.
Right?
And you just said the key term there, CFO, because when we started, we were more focused on, cultivation, helping produce the plants, and then manufacturing, and then compliance, the other thing you said there. So we believe that good compliance comes out of good data capture, right? And that it's a byproduct of that good exercise of capturing a robust amount of scientific data. But then, so we do help those operators, and those are our users, and we love working with them, but we're also like, and we've been able to sell to them in the sense that, hey, like this is a product that's going to make their life easier.
Right.
But the finance teams, senior management,
also like it.
They need
the added
this.
benefit. Yes.
They don't have visibility. We're talking to some farms in the States, and they're like, we're in San Francisco, our farm's down south, and like we don't see what's happening on the farm for 3 months after. There's a 3-month delay. So how can you make business decisions on that front? So now we're talking more to the finance teams, and then because we capture data at such a granular level, and all the inventory, like I said, the companies get audited on their work in progress.
Right.
They're literally paying like the auditors to come and do manual plant counts because it's not in the software, it's on the spreadsheets, and that's costing millions of dollars.
Because what you're saying doesn't surprise me, because we talk to lots of people in the sector, and we sort of have a line of sight to what's going on. But is it shocking sometimes, even for you, understanding it so deeply, when you go into a new client or would-be client, being like, oh, fellas, like, you need to step your game up?
It's not shocking because, again, like other industries, like whether you're talking about the beverage industry, pharmaceutical, nutraceuticals, like they all have these same challenges, but they've also had like 20, 50 years to build in-house systems. They've had ERP systems that have been able to spend more time like fine-tuning it to that industry. Cannabis just hasn't, and we often get asked, it's like, well, why not just, like by investors and stuff, like, well, can they not just use software from other industries? Like, no, there are unique elements to the way this plant is cared for, the regulatory aspects as well. And so no one's been able to like just port over ERP systems and so on.
Good for you then.
yeah. But then it's like, again, we want to solve this in cannabis, but then it can branch out into other industries that need the same digital transformation. Just like the stuff wasn't completely available before.
Right. Well, I love talking about it because, it's a Canadian story, but also it is the type of story where Canada and cannabis can lead. Because I think we often hear about, well, the U.S. is going to swamp us on brands, like all those things. But on the technological part, on the technology part, like you're going to tell me, we are advanced in many ways.
Well, what I really love to see what's happening right now is the ecosystem. So we say like we're partnership first. We operate in an ecosystem. We can't do this. We solve one challenge here, but our customers, they work with consultants, they work with equipment, they work with like a whole different suite of tools. They work with other software. So I think Canada is becoming a great model to export what we've done to other countries like Germany. We've just got our first customer in Australia, Switzerland, North Macedonia. We're going to be looking at Germany a lot now because the US model doesn't port over to them.
But the Canadian one does.
The Canadian one does. We've done our GMP validation with Pure Sun Farms this year, so like we can operate at that level and take it to these other countries. But my point was about the ecosystem. So it's like we don't even need to change our software or change our partners or our sales channels because the consultants that we work with here in Canada are going to those other countries and they're like, hey, like you should check this out.
Yeah, it's like the regulatory burden that Canada imposed was a challenge to operate in. But if you got through that challenge or enabled it to happen, you're way advanced in terms of making it happen somewhere else.
Exactly.
I like it. I appreciate you coming by. I always like talking about Elevated Signals. You and the team are just crushing it. So congratulations. Nice to see you here. We'll connect with you hopefully on the West Coast one day.
My pleasure.
Great,
come by Vancouver.
That was Amar Singh, the CEO of Elevated Signals. If you like this program, please rate and review us wherever you heard the show. It really helps support the work we do. We're able to do what we do because of ongoing partnerships with Alterna Savings, Cannabis at Work, Cannabis Benchmarks, Can Delta, Gallagher, Headset, and Torque & Mains. Find out all that we do at businessofcannabis.com.